episode of Famous Conversations with Angela Edmonds. Angela is Philadelphia's first. All right. Hi, guys. We're here with an episode of Famous Conversations with Angela Edmonds. Angela is a stylist, designer, consultant, and many things as it relates to the world of fashion. And she is also the founder of Showroom 77. So, Angela, go ahead and tell us what Showroom 77 is.
Well, Showroom 77 began in 2006 as Philadelphia's first multi-clothing and accessory label showroom.
All right. Got it. So, when you started that brand, what was the reason behind starting Showroom 77?
Well, basically, I saw an opportunity. So the space, getting an opportunity to move into a larger space. The space was supposed to be for my line because I was designing at that time period. But I saw that there were a lot of designers that were creative, but weren't completely on the business-minded sense, that organizational side of it. So it was the creativity and the business fighting itself with that. So a lot of designers didn't want to be the one that would have to contact the buyers, or they didn't have things like sales terms to protect them or different things like that. So I saw a need and I said, you know what, Philadelphia doesn't have anything like that. There can be a support or help or have a resource of where a buyer could go. There's so much talent that was here, or stylists, that wanted to go to someplace else to pull. So Philly only had single label designer showrooms, like Paula Hine. So that's how Showroom 77 became Philadelphia's first multi-label showroom. So New York, LA are known for it. They have multiple showrooms. And that's where it began. I just saw a need and had an opportunity with the space and just started working on it and started from there.
Philadelphia. So at the time, you said you saw a need for that in Philadelphia. At the time, where did you see Philadelphia's fashion scene going? Since there was a need for it, where did you see that Philadelphia was and where they were headed?
I saw Philadelphia's fashion scene growing, and I saw that there were designers, that Philadelphia's fashion wasn't just Philadelphia's fashion. There was designers from other states. There were, when I started the showroom, there were designers internationally that were searching the U.S. And were calling and finding me from here. So there were designers all over that were just looking for something different, or let's just say maybe more of a boutique style of consulting of a business.
Gotcha.
And that's where they were finding also that network in Philly. So, I mean, Philly was growing in fashion with the development that's happened with Philly Fashion Week and how it's grown over all the years. I think it was at a point that it was growing. It was needed. It was growing.
The Showroom 77 wasn't your first touch point into the world of fashion. Obviously, you had done much more work before that. Take me back into what led you up to. Yeah, take me back to the beginning, all the way back to the start of it.
So I started the parent company of Showroom 77 is Sarai Style.
All right.
So Sarai Style started in '99, which was my senior year in college. I was at Temple. I was there. My degree was journalism. Temple had no fashion.
So we did something.
There was no complete switch. So I was the fashion person in my journalism classes.
So you came to school in style, and everybody noticed.
Back then, I don't even remember what we were doing. It was like back in the 90s style. But what we were doing on campus, fashion-wise, though, we had a community of fashion shows, theatrical fashion shows that would happen. That was the fashion. So it was like fashion groups on campus. And then it was myself, my line, and models. And then also Charles Gregory, which is a known stylist. We both went to Temple together, and his was the other big fashion line on campus.
Nice.
So we were the two big fashion lines.
Already.
And we both had our own sets of models. So it was like we were the America's Next Top Model back in the day, Temple for college campus vibes kind of a thing. So it was interesting. It was a collective. So that was the fashion vibe on campus. And
you set the standard.
And so senior year. So but when I was doing the fashion, aside from what I was doing on fashion journalism, my collection when I started, I was doing it as a hobby. And then one day a family friend was like, oh, you need to take your design more seriously. And that's where I did. And I started combining just my degree and everything else with it. But I was self-taught. So because I was already halfway through college, I didn't leave and transfer and then go to design school. So I was self-taught in design and everything else I was doing at that time.
Did everything on your own.
Before my first sewing machine, I was sewing by hand. Wow. Then it was like I got my first sewing machine. Then I did one internship at a boutique, which was a small boutique that used to be in an old city called Lele. Okay. And that's where I learned how to just sew on industrial machines. But other than that, it was just a lot of trial and error with things. But that in 99, I started Sarai Style with the clothing line, the model management. I was already working doing special events as a special events manager for there. And so I was already doing that. So then working with my line, people were seeing me style for my shows and my models and things, and started to ask me to go in the style for their shoots and their other things.
She's got stuff.
So it was like going from styling models and just fashion shoots to then it started to go into linking with a certain photographer that ended up going into music artists. Okay. So then it started going in. Now it's transitioning territories from just, just fashion shoots to artist shoots. Artist shoots being for music video, for album cover labels. So that's how I connected back then with Kindred the Family Soul. It was their, in their In This Life Together album cover, so it advanced from there. And then they had a boutique. And when they did their rebranding for their boutique, they asked me to come on, and then I did that. So it was like Music Soul Child was there on that shoot, Nikki Chi, Anthony Hamilton. So it was a whole collective. And I was the stylist back then on there. So then music styling then started to go into film. So it's like everything I've ever done has been a situation of it evolved, and it took the experiences from everything else
and took you into
the next thing. So all of that was going on, and then it was the situation where 2006 happened, and I had the opportunity for this space. Prior to that, college, I was in my apartment when I started my company, started the company, got rid of my bed, was sleeping on like my floor and my couch for 5 years, turned it into basically like the manufacturing.
So really,
you know what I mean? Like the sewing machines,
beginnings.
The meetings, the kind of meetings, our model meetings before shows, everything was happening. I gave up personal space. And that's the interesting thing. I gave up personal space in 99 all the way to right.
So let me take it a little bit back, because you talked about a couple different industries that you're in here. So as a college student with a focus in journalism and then an interest in fashion, where did you start to put the business of fashion piece into what you were doing? You have a style, you're a stylist, you're working with models. Who taught you how to manage all these different pieces of business that you were starting to go into? Or how did you start to pick up on what to do, when to do it, how to do it?
I would say it's just from working on other projects, being just, I think, observing, and also just research on different things. I mean, before I was in college, in high school, I was designing, but I was designing just as a hobby for people for prom. So I didn't know how to make it then. So it was a situation where I would sketch it, and then they'd have an aunt or a girl. My sketch is not as good now, but I would sketch it, and then they would take the design to their grandmother, mother, aunt,
to get it made,
who would then make the dress. So in terms of in high school, like then college had a program for teenagers, and I thought it was going to teach us how to sew. And in that program, we more so were learning sketching. but we had a program and fashion show, and everybody had a role of, you know, whatever you wanted to sign up for. So I ended up signing up for being like the production person, you know what I mean? So feeling on that. So that was back then, that was my first experience putting together and saying, okay, models are lined up. This is how you do a lineup. Here's how this goes.
Did you even know that you were becoming a producer at this point?
I didn't know that. So then later in high school, I did a fashion show because I was on a club in high school.
Okay.
And I did a fashion show in high school. So it was just in that time period in high school, there were only 2 fashion shows. And then by the time I hit college and got with this creative fashion collective,
built up.
It was working with the shows, the fashion shows and the behind the scenes and stuff in college. And then I also used to model. So everything that I've done.
You haven't done? I feel like we're touching so many different categories. Every time he gives you another piece of the story. And I also, like, wait a minute.
Because that's where the learning, my school of a lot of what I've done has been life. That's what it is, you know? So I have a journalism degree. I've been the fashion editor of a magazine. I was covering New York Fashion Week back when it was in the tents in Bryant Park before it got to Lincoln Center.
Right.
Then I was covering at Lincoln Center. So the journalism part I put together with that.
Right.
So in journalism, what else do you learn also in the communications part is also the PR part and writing press releases and things of that sort. So you take that. So I always felt like for a fashion show, I could teach the models how to walk in it. I could walk in it myself. I could photograph it. I could produce it. I could manage the backstage. I could manage the front stage. And I could write the article about it and design the clothes that are walking down it.
Did you sleep at all? At any point?
There were many years. There's a lot of time with no sleep. But it was like I always felt with things with business that whatever you do, learn every aspect of it, because if somebody else if somebody else is going to come on, or when you're starting, it's just you. You know,
and if somebody drops out, you'll be able to cover it and pick up where they left off.
Like an example, when I was styling, it was one thing to style something and do it for me. There's other things you just have to think of further details when you're doing it for someone else. But then as I started to expand with that, and it was a situation for let's say music videos and film, I realized, okay, well, there was one I was on that there was only just me, and there's, you know, the makeup artist. There was no hairstylist, but the lead love interest in it showed up not with her hair done.
Don't tell me you had to.
I learned you always have to be prepared for every situation. So I didn't just pack my kit with things for styling clothes. I made sure I had curling irons, I had pins, I had a few other just basic kind of stuff.
Just in case.
You know what I mean? Just in case. Because at the end of the day, that final look and to pull together, I could have said, you know, the makeup artist, she knew how to do hair, but she was like, you know what? I'm only getting paid for the makeup, so I'm not going to do the hair. But you could have, what's it going to look like with this lead love interest? She has great makeup. Her clothes are great, but her hair's messy.
Has to be on point too.
The whole look has to be there and come together. So no, I didn't get paid extra to do it, but I did her hair to make sure that, because at the end of the day, as the stylist, it's the full look that comes together. You know, on another shoot, I was on, I remember it was, and the song just came on the radio the other day, Jill Scott's Shame video. And I was the stylist for the extras, like just making sure the accessories and all their clothes and everything was straight with there. And then her background singers thought that for her background performers for it, thought they were getting their makeup done by her makeup artist.
And that was not the case.
And that wasn't the case. And there were like two or three of them. I think it was like 3 backup people. 2 out of the 3 knew how to do their makeup.
Okay, so you still got
one of them did not. And all of a sudden, I'm in one room and I hear, Angela, we need you. You know? And I'm like, okay, did not know what it was for. And the one out of now, I was the same complexion pretty much as the other 2. The one that needed the makeup
not.
was, and she was light skinned. And I'm like, I don't have foundation. I don't have, you know what I mean? Things of mine go. Luckily, she had her foundation with her.
She just didn't know how to do it.
She didn't have shadows. She didn't have the rest of the other stuff. So
luckily,
what I had packed of my makeup in colors, as long as she had the foundation, I was able to go and do the shadow and the line and the lipstick and the other stuff. And I did her makeup. And that was the first time I did makeup for an on camera for something for that. Okay. But it just happened. Right. It's like, who would have thought? I don't know why.
It wasn't part of the plan.
It wasn't part of the plan, but my name just got called from the other room, and it was like, okay, solve this.
Well, at this point, you built a reputation of, you know, being somebody who's always prepared, so they probably figured, you know what? If anybody's going to know how to fix this, Angela will.
And that's what happened. It happened on another shoot in a situation like that, and it was a black makeup artist that didn't know how to do black faces.
Well, that's interesting.
It was the most interesting situation. She could do her own, but she couldn't do others. And nobody knew this. And it was a mixed group of models. And so
gets called again.
Then again, in that situation, so when I started to notice things like that, I would just come prepared with more things in my kit to be ready.
And that's definitely
an important part. You learn throughout the process to go and you know what kinds of things and stuff that you need. When I was on the movie Brotherly Love, I was the wardrobe supervisor, and
that movie still makes me so upset. But let me get back to this. It makes me so upset every time I see him.
Oh. And I remember there was one model, she had a white dress. And, you know, it takes everybody sitting around for scenes to shoot them can take forever and sitting around. And then it was like finally at the point it hits when they're going to be almost ready to go and shoot this one person. I don't know what happened. If because of sitting for so long, she decided to like take the dress off so nothing else would get on it if you eat in between time. And it was covered in foundation. Oh, God. And it was like, okay, now we're finally ready to shoot. And now the dress is covered in foundation.
So now how do we fix this?
I create a washing machine out of a box. I'm like, find me a cardboard box, a plastic garment bag, like a shirt bag. Yeah. And I had some like little detergent stuff or whatever. And I was in there on a chair in the trailer, washing this dress and, you know, and doing
whatever
that.
It takes by
whatever it took. And I'm there like literally as a full hand wash, putting it through its own little rinse cycle. Okay. So kind of a thing. And drying it.
This is
to be ready.
Insane.
It just happens. Things just would come up and things would happen.
Okay, so
and
let me
learn.
Take that into the now. So 1999, back in college years, that's where you got started. Right. You've done so much from then up to the 2006 point and then up to the now point where we are in 2019. Right. With this idea of having to learn to adapt and with the changes, what I'm really interested in hearing about is Philly's current state of fashion today and how you've adapted and changed with it as you've seen it change from 99 when you got started to now.
I think what has changed for me is the original concept of the showroom. Okay. So the showroom, when it opened, it was dealing with wholesale, retail, clothing and accessory designers, labels. And it was about going in and trying to get them into stores and get them placed and things of that sort. What I realized through time is there's so many talented people that are missing certain other business fundamental portions that they're finding success on certain marketing ends. Okay. But they're only getting to a certain point or something's missing. Right. And so it's really looking at that, and it's not even a situation of just with young designers, and it's not even just in fashion. Even it's other small business. It could be a hair salon. It could be, you know, anything. It's small business owners. It's entrepreneurs, and just understanding different things in business structure. So I think also the change that you face that's going on now, when you think of things like a showroom in stores, you have a big switch. You have more online shopping that's happening now. So a lot of people trying to understand too how you're marketing for social media and online.
My thoughts now.
You know what I mean? Yeah. The shopping and the market itself is different and has changed. You know, and so also when you look at, I'm on the advisory board for Harcum University. I've guest spoke at a number of different universities, and I'm finding more are also interested now within what they're learning within the curriculum and what they're graduating with. There's some missing points in just the realistic world of getting out there in the business of fashion and basic things to think of. And when I mean or speak on some of the basics and the fundamentals of it, I'm talking about, okay, you want to go and sell, you know, are you doing direct sales or do you want to go into wholesale? If you're trying to make that switch, okay, what is your production like? What are your minimums? You know, do you have all the paperwork to go in to protect you? Are you pricing out your collections correctly? You know, different things like that.
So it sounds like there's a lot of the business of fashion that isn't necessarily taught in the curriculum, but you have people like yourself, you go in and you speak, because you have all of this real life experience, you can go in and talk to everybody from the beginning, here things that you should be thinking about. Here's
ways to help structure it, organize it. So before you get here, before you go to for a showroom to represent you,
make sure you have this
go to this and this portion, knowing that the way that things have switched anyway with now and online, it's so important to have your site optimized. You know, so it's understanding having certain search words or things like if somebody Googles you, like take time to actually Google yourself, see what comes up with it. You know, anybody, I was always surprised for years because anybody overseas that reached out to me found me by Googling the US. And I literally was like, seriously, like you literally just Googled and you found and you called me.
But it really is about those keywords.
But it really, and I realized, you know, my webmaster was great at that for whatever was put in there as the plugins and the tags and the key things. It was optimized enough to make it easily able to be Googled and found under different categories.
Now, I think that's something that when it comes to marketing specifically, that a lot of people don't necessarily think about when they first put up a website. When you put up a website, it's make sure you get it up there so you have a landing page to drive people to. But obviously the back end of it makes a lot of sense because you need to make sure your SEO is up to par so when people are searching that you can come up in results. As it comes to the digital age and the age of mobile and things are continuously growing in that direction, how has social media played a part in the methodology behind fashion now, how things are being sold? Because like you said, a lot of things are going digital. A lot of boutiques are popping up. A lot of people are starting stores via Instagram before even taking it to online. So how has the industry shifted that way? And how?
Well, see right there, that's the shift. It's because look at when Instagram started. When Instagram started, everybody was just posting pictures. Then as time went on, now we have the little white shopping bag. You know, but for just the shopping bag part, it's one little white dot that goes over, and it was like, oh, you can click over this and you can see what this information on this piece. Okay, now you can click on this piece and now you can open the store with it. Now you can buy it on here. Everything is about getting it now. Now Instagram's launched, now we want to keep you in Instagram shopping. So that we're now not taking you off going to the other site. So, and then you have the Instagram ads.
Absolutely.
Then you have the hashtags. You could put up a piece.
Always to get in front of a new audience.
Right. So it's like, you know, there's some designers, they'll put up pieces, but if you put a picture and there's no hashtag with it, the only people who are seeing it are the people that are following you. So it's even just understanding how to find good hashtags to put with it. Understanding the hashtags.
Okay. Let me get your take on that a little bit because I think the max number of hashtags that you can use on an Instagram post is about 30 or so. What do you have to say when you see a post that is a fashion related post, it's a boutique somebody's selling? If they have the full number of hashtags, do you advise against it? Is there something about the appeal of the advertisement or not looking too much like an ad that plays a difference in the fashion aspect of social media?
I mean, I think if I see like 30 hashtags after play, I mean, I'm not reading through all 30.
Right.
So it's like, it when you're seeing that many hashtags, it does look excessive, you know, for a bit. But if you're catching me with what's in the visuals first, I'm not focusing. I'm really not focusing as much on your hashtags. I'm focusing more on your hashtags when they really are actually saying something, because you'll notice a lot of times if you're seeing literally like 30 hashtags, some of them could be one word things. So it could have even have just been, you know, unless it was pick of the day, you know, like the color, you know, whatever it is, you know, it's with that, as opposed to if it's a message within the hashtag. So there's differences in those, but I think if you're catching everyone's so much more visual into video now.
Absolutely.
So if it's a video, I'm really into the video, and I'm not even really paying attention to.
Even podcasts now have changed from audio to visual now. So everybody has a video associated with it. Everything is changing and evolving. But
I think that the hashtag is more so for to get that to pop up in the other in somewhere in that search on the other part, so that when I'm clicking on, you know, like the magnifying glass, the search part, and you go to that search page, all those other things that pop up that are there in their hashtag, I've found really cool stuff through just going through those.
Looking through that.
Right. Just going through those and saying, oh, that's interesting. Oh, go over here and check out that or there. So it's more so using the hashtag to the advantage. There's a company that I had as a client that was an interior design company. And by rebranding their social media and adding more thought out hashtags that fall into higher search hashtag categories that match with them,
they become
but doing the rebranding to more of an editorial style of photographs gave them increased traffic of more of the kind of interior designers that they want to also attract. So, you know, even for them, it even attracted a firm that ended up being a whole new sales territory in a whole, you know, in another country rather than another state, just from
the hashtag,
just from hashtags and making it look more editorial style.
Okay, so on that piece too, going a little bit broader than social media, and kind of relating this to Philly, but also on a broader scale, when it comes to marketing a brand, how do you feel that Philly designers are taking advantage of the changes that are happening? Do you see a lot more people in person at events? Do you see a lot of people using social media or going online? How do you see the branding and promotions changing in the city?
I see them definitely online on social media, more so on just posting from cell phones and video and things of that sort. What I still think misses some within the branding is when you're at a show and you have the run of show going, there's hardly, if you're looking at 20 lines going on a run of show, maybe 5 out of 20 actually have a business card, a postcard, something, most don't have information that goes to the VIP in those seats.
And you feel like that's one of the most important pieces.
And I think that's important, is having something, because it's like your name goes up, the line shows, but if you're trying to get the press, it's like if you're doing the event, what are you trying to get out of the event? So you're either trying to get new customers, you're trying to get a write-up, or or you're trying to get the exposure. So how does someone go back and find you or make a note unless they take a picture of your name when it comes up on the screen, and then they take a picture of the pieces that they saw, you know what I mean? And then go back and then try to Google and search your name that's on there. Which is so many
extra steps for them to have to do.
For them to do. So, you know, I think if there was more intent put into, you know, how they were packaging themselves, so whether it was a shopping, you know, event, I think there's a lot of when designers are part of bigger events, they leave it to the promotions of the person hosting the event to take over and just do it. And they're not also working on what's representing of their own package that they're putting out. So it's not just a repost and say, hey, come check me out here.
Right.
Maybe it's having that constant contact, that MailChimp and something, and putting a specific blast out to your own mailing list. Having another form of an invitation or something that you do and reach out. Right. Have a press release of your own that you invite press that you would like to be there as well, to say, come and check me out. I'm showing on so-and-so date as a part of this event. Instead, it's left to whoever's doing the event. So then the press come, but then you have nothing that's there.
They saw your line, but
but then how are they really contacting you? And then if you walk away from it and feel, oh, I didn't get anything. Well, how are they supposed to,
That makes total sense.
So I think it's thinking in that kind of way of really going into the events with intention and purpose. And that's why I say find your purpose. Is it just for entertainment? And that's why for designers, if it's a show and the person's, charging, like for some shows, let's say, for example, if it's a case where it's entertainment, you're asked as a designer to do a show and the person's making all the money off the show and you don't get press, you don't get no new clients or things like that, then you should be paid to do the show because you should be the paid entertainment. Right. You know what I mean? So that was something back when I was showing my life, there were times that it was like, you get paid to do, because if you're not going to have the press there, if you're not going to have any of those other opportunities, there has to be some benefit because still for the designer, it's business.
Right.
Unless you're just doing it just to get your name out there.
Okay. Angela, you have a lot of important information to share on this. So how involved are you right now with Philly Fashion Week? Because all of this stuff seems very much related to, the designers, which you've worked with many of designers. You've been to many runway shows, so you have all the knowledge and experience. How much of that experience are you passing on to Philly Fashion Week now?
I've, over the years, I've actually offered, I give discounts for my consulting services for any designer that is showing as a part of Philly Fashion Week. So that's something I've always just put out there, offered, and Kevin and Kara have always been supportive to go in and let the designers know that is available to them. Okay. So that's always been available, whether somebody takes advantage of it or not. It's always been there and available. What I'm excited about is this fall I will be able to work more with the designers because I have been added on to the actual team. So I get to work with the, Philly Fashion Week's team.
That's really exciting.
And so I'm excited to be able to get that opportunity to really really work more with the designers that are showing and just through that process and everything so that, hopefully anybody who's missing those areas.
Yes, I'm going to see some cards on the VIP chairs
maybe
now.
There'll be cards or the,
I'll see a press release go out.
Right. It's because it's different when it's something like, oh, if you want to go and take this or want to work with the person, over there, then if you get to be more hands-on,
right.
With it. So I'm excited about that because I've just always been supportive of what they've done because I think it's a great platform for designers, and it's really something where there's been designers that have been picked up and have gotten into stores. There's designers that have gotten great press within the newspapers. Others have been used and styled and gotten magazines and Vogue, Bazaar overseas have been used for things, and even the models in the show. There's models that have gone on and gotten picked up and modeled for big,
definitely
designers.
A place
so
to be seen.
It's a platform. Yeah. It is a good platform. It's just a question of if you're participating, how do you utilize?
How do you take advantage of
what's
available to you?
Right. If somebody gives you a platform, how do you go and make the most of that?
And that's where you're going to come in and change the game.
So that's what I want the designers to understand
Okay.
is this is an opportunity and a platform, and just completely make the most of it that you can for you, of get the most out of, being a part of Philly Fashion Week as you want.
So outside of Philly Fashion Week, as it relates to working with these designers from the beginning, from the roots, how else are you involved with some of the Philadelphia design schools?
Well, I do a lot of guest speaking. So it's been guest speaking, but like with Harcum, their senior class, I participate in their critiques. So the senior critiques. So
I can only imagine the tenseness as I would go up to show something in front of Angela Edmonds.
I participate in senior critiques. So I actually have one that's coming up before they do their final
finals?
fashion show.
Ooh.
I've attended for their final
Okay.
showings. I've been a part of their critiques, so where they can pretend as if they're, well, technically they're not pretending. They're making them actually show it. But if they were to show their portfolios and collections as though they were going on a real appointment
Okay.
with someone, and to get feedback and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's fun to do.
Wow.
So with Harcum, that's what I've been doing with them,
Yeah.
with the students.
So you're doing a bunch of speaking engagements across the city, not just at schools.
Well, the one I just did was a workshop for the Philadelphia Fashion Incubator. So I'm on the advisory board for there. Just joined one around the end of 2018. So just did a Fundamentals of Business fashion workshop for the new class of 2019 design groups,
exciting.
which they're a good group. They're a good group. So I was a guest speaker for their previous group, and then now I did a workshop for this group. So I've been doing guest speaking spots with them for about 2 years now.
Wow. Okay, so you have a lot of information to offer. We've talked about everything from how you started to branding to marketing to your speaking engagements, etc. Do you have any final words for designers and brands out there who are looking to launch and just need some advice on how to do so?
I would say be passionate about your brand, your path, your journey, because it is a journey. Be passionate about it, because it's not the easiest route. And plan.
Okay.
Plan.
Yeah, I think that's one of the harder things to do, because I feel like you do, and then you kind of have to realize.
Right. At a point, you have to figure out the plan.
Okay.
And sometimes it takes a long time, and it's not. And a lot of people, they might, especially with the pop up of all the, the Instagram stores and different things and stuff like that. Rather than sitting and just comparing yourself to everything else that you're seeing, or somebody, that looks further ahead, or whatever that it is with you, find out what it truly is that you want to do within your journey of it. Be patient about it. Plan it.
It's not an overnight.
It's not an overnight. It's going to take sacrifice, and just stick with it. Just stay with it, and really just try to plan as much as you can, and make sure that you build the structure. It's the foundation, because being creative, it's so easy to just create, and you get caught and lost in the creating, so it's like you have to create the foundation as also a protection for your creativity.
Wow. I hope you guys heard that, because I definitely did. So I do want to thank you so much, Angela, for taking the time to talk to me and share all of your knowledge. Well, not all, but we got a lot of it.
Yeah, we got a lot of it.
And we will definitely be keeping in touch and talking to you again soon.
Thank you.
Yay!